Um, so nevertheless, we are going to start by a small meditation. And when we get a bit uptight, then we can try to remember that the sounds are empty from their own side. And then the listener is empty from his own side. So we can exactly check how much experience of emptiness we actually have. You see, if your mind is spacious and you see things as transparent, as having no essence, so that actually there's nobody that gets irritated, and there's no sound from his own side to be irritated about, right? So if you get irritated, it means that you haven't got it yet, right? So the meditation we are going to do is we are going to start a little bit. So you see, when you study emptiness, there are two approaches. One approach is that first you try to get the right view of emptiness by studying, and then you meditate, you create a conceptual image of that emptiness, and then you meditate on that, you develop calm abiding on that view. Right? So that approach is seeking the view, seeking the meditation through the view. And then you have a different approach where you seek the view through the meditation. So first you go into a meditative space on the space-like nature of awareness, the mind. And then from within the space of awareness of your own mind, you try to find the ultimate nature of that mind. So this approach is taught in Mahamudra, right? So you have basically two different approaches, and tonight we are going to do a little bit of both, because they help each other. But to start with, I think we're just going to relax a little bit. See, in order to make the mind receptive, I remember myself, you see, I used to go to teachings, and I was to go to Lama Zopa Rinpoche's teaching for 2-3 hours, and I would come out, and somebody would ask me, what did he say? I couldn't even remember a sentence of a 2 hours lecture. You know, so that just shows how much mindfulness I had. So often, you know, we go to teaching, but actually we follow our own stream of thought, what's going on. You know, our body is there, but our mind is actually still in the past, or already anticipating the future, or we are dozing off, you know, because we're tired. And, you know, so much things happen. You know, we look very great meditators sitting there on the chair, or on the floor, you know, but in fact our mind is all over the place, right? So to start with, we just relax our body, that there is no tension. And we let our mind wander freely. So the mind is like space, and within it there are thoughts that arises. They come from the space-like nature of the mind. They are in the nature of the mind, and they dissolve back from where they came from. And same thing, the emotion. They arise out of the space-like nature of mind. They are the nature of the mind, and they dissolve back into it. So we just relax and put our mind and body at ease. Now we are going to recite 7 times the mantra of the Prajnaparamita, the mantra of emptiness. And while we chant this mantra together, you imagine that the atoms of your body spread apart and they dissolve into space, and that your mind becomes very vast, that waves of energy from your center expands and your mind expands into space and becomes one with infinite space. And within that space there is no center. And you try to identify yourself with the space-like nature of your awareness. And at the end of the 7 recitation, you try to stare in that spaciousness with a mental feeling of astonishment. So you just stare into space and you try to stay there non-conceptually for as long as possible. And at the beginning, there will be waves of thought trying to manifest in awareness, and at the beginning you might be able to stop them merely by staring at them. And then later on these thoughts become more strong and they invade your mind. And at the beginning there's just thoughts there and an awareness of thought. And then later on there's a sense of I that arises, which think these are my thoughts. And then try to look does this I exist? Where is it in that space of awareness? We take it for granted that the I exists. So if it exists, where is it in that space of awareness? Just try to inquire. That's good enough. So with the body completely relaxed and the mind not holding on to anything, we expand our mind by reciting the mantra. Dayata Gade Gade Parangate Parasamgate Bodhiso Dayata Gade Gade Parangate Parasamgate Bodhiso Dayata So what is mind, awareness, or consciousness? See, experientially, what does it feel like? Does consciousness have a form, a color, a shape? Is it located somewhere? It's very difficult to come to any definite conclusion. It appears to be like a space, like the sky, yet it is aware. It cognizes. It knows what it enters into contact with. So this very mind that we have is the creator of all our happiness and the creator of all our problems. All the suffering of cyclic existence are created within this very mind of ours, and the bliss of liberation and enlightenment is created right here within our mind. If we could experience the true nature of this very awareness that we have right now, we would experience the bliss of nirvana, of liberation, and our mind would be creating pure lands. Right now, it is just a matter of seeing through the illusion of believing that there's a concrete mind. a concrete eye, a concrete body. There's no body to be found, there's no mind to be found, there's no I to be found. The mind that sees that there's no concrete body sitting, none of the parts of the body is the body, and the collection of parts of what are not the body doesn't make it a body. There's nobody sitting here. And there's no mind being aware from his own side. The mind is a stream of moment of awareness. And each moment of awareness can be subdivided to one that has already passed, one is not yet here. Like a minute can be split into 60 seconds, a second into millisecond. Ad infinitum, you don't find the present moment of awareness from his own side. There's no mind there. Not finding a body and not finding a mind, how can you find an I? From the ultimate point of view, the mind cannot hold on to anything. Everything is free and open. Everything is like rainbow energy. It exists, it functions, but if you look, trying to find its essence, where is it? You don't find anything. It's like a mirage. From far away, it appears to be water there, but the closer you come, it disappears. It's the same thing with all phenomena. They appear to be there, and they are there. Independence on cause and condition, parts and imputation. But if you're not satisfied with that and want to find something concretely, you don't find. So there's no body to be found, no mind to be found, no I. There's no room to be found. There's no ground to be found on which we sit. There's no sound to be found. And that open space is in nature of bliss. So try to feel that space is full of light, and you make that light brighter and brighter. And the brighter you make the space of your awareness, the more blissful it becomes. Try to feel that. And whatever appears in your mind, see it as transparent, as having no essence, like rainbow. Your mind goes through everything. It doesn't get stopped by anything. That mind is pure from the beginning. Nothing makes it better. Nothing makes it worse. There is no fear there. There's no I to have fear. There's nothing to be feared about. Even death doesn't take that space of blissful awareness away. That's our true home. It is unborn and undying. All right. Relax. Your life is so fantastic, you see. On one side we think we are stuck in cyclic existence since beginningless time, that there doesn't seem to be any way out. And on the other side, liberation is not far away, it's just right here, just to see through. Right? So it's this kind of awkward situation. One side we're stuck, and the other side, if we could just see through, and we're there. You know, it's not a question of time, it's a question of looking in a certain way through the mind, through things. So I think in the West we're quite fascinated by the emptiness business. You know, it seems to be quite appealing to people for some reason. I don't know whether it comes from quantum physics or from the maths or what's the background of our interest into emptiness. And Buddhists are very happy with that, because actually emptiness is the real solution of our problems. You see, all the other practices, we try to remove, we can reduce the mental afflictions, but we can never eliminate them from the root. See, from Buddhist point of view, the good news is that we have always existed, right? We are eternal, right? That's not the problem. No, it's not Buddhism which suddenly makes you eternal. You have always been eternal from the start, right? Consciousness, the mind arises from its previous moment, which comes from the previous moment, and it has a stream going back infinitely. So we just don't remember our past life of what happened before birth, right? But there are many things even in this life that we don't remember. You ask me what I did 10 years ago, I would have a hard time. If I don't have an agenda that I keep, I wouldn't be able to tell you what I did 10 years ago. Yet, I can infer that I exist. I existed 10 years ago because this body is here, right? So it has existed before 10 years ago, right? So once you understand and experience the space-like nature of your awareness, if you could experience that mind is not something that has form, has color, shape. If you could experience that the immateriality of mind, you see, you could prove to yourself that you're eternal, right? And if you have higher levels of concentration, you can actually see the past. You can look into the mind, a little bit like looking into a crystal ball, and you have a question, and there in the nature of your mind you can see things. But that's at higher level of achievement, where one's mind becomes more clear. So first of all, emptiness, you see, is not non-existence, right? Empty, is not like empty doesn't mean things don't exist, right? Emptiness never says, when we say there's no body, it doesn't mean that the body doesn't exist, right? It means that the inherent existence of the body doesn't exist. When we say there's no mind to be found, it doesn't mean that there's no mind that exists. It means that the inherent existence of the mind doesn't exist. When we say there's no I, doesn't mean there's no I. It means there's no I existing from his own side. So there's a big difference there, right? So emptiness never means that things don't exist, right? So that's very important, because people sometimes get a wrong idea of emptiness. Things, there's no body, there's no mind, there's no I, and that emptiness, that non-existence is liberation. But that's not liberation. So emptiness is not an otherness, that you go out of the body, out of the mind, out of the I, and you reach in a third dimension somewhere else, which is separate from this phenomena. So that's not emptiness. So, you see, when one is on the spiritual path, many of you might have studied emptiness for a while, but our mind is not able to make great progress because there's a gradual path, right? So even if one has a correct understanding of emptiness, if one's mind is not calm, one's understanding of emptiness has no power. Right? So one's mind needs to be calm. Mind needs to be stable. So you see, you make an analysis and you're able to stare into the conclusion of your analysis. If your mind is swept away by other thoughts, you're not able to see the full impact of what you just thought about. So that's why usually, and in order to get this calm abiding, one needs a certain kind of ethical behavior, a certain lifestyle where one slows down, you know. And on that base of a relatively simple lifestyle, on that base one can develop calm abiding or a higher level of concentration. And on base of this concentrated mind, this calm mind, then you can pierce through things. You can see ultimate reality. You know? So there's a graduate approach. You know, one depends on the other. But you see, all the other meditation, you might be able to experience a certain appeasement of the mind, a certain well-being by taking care of karma. You know, you get a certain kind of self-respect of not harming other and being a good person. You know, there's a kind of well-being that arises from keeping pure morality, right? There's another type of well-being that arises by developing love and compassion towards others. And there's an opening of the heart, and you feel that your heart encompasses other living beings. You know, instead of living in that constricted world of me, suddenly your me becomes your family, becomes your city, becomes your country, becomes the whole planet and all living beings. So your mind expands, and the purpose of your life is, instead of making me happy, is to make everybody happy. Right? So you live in an open space. And that open space, again, is very comfortable. You know, it's a kind of well-being, there's a warmth there. There's a new purpose in your life. But that, again, would not remove the mental affliction from the roots. And then there's another direction one can take, this is the direction of calm abiding, where, you see, by withdrawing the mind inside and calming it, you can experience a bliss of body and mind, where actually the bliss of your mind is much greater than any sensory pleasure that you can get. So just sitting, you know, and putting your mind on an object and be able to keep it there without excitement or laxity, that quality of the mind changes the way the energy flows in your body. You know, you see, by fixing it on one point, the energy of your body and mind becomes directed. It's like with electricity, you know, you have there's an electron in the wire which moves freely. And when the current passes, they all move in the same direction. So it's the same thing with the body and mind. If you focus it on one point and able to keep it there, the energy of your body changes. Suddenly all the atoms of all the electrons of your body move in the same direction, right? And as a result, there's a suppleness of the body that arises. A warmthness is kind of, your nervous system is pervaded by a warm current, which is very pleasant, right? Your body is very light and supple, and your mind becomes very sharp and very clear. And your mind becomes like, you see, when you have the surface of, let's say, a cup of water, you know, if the cup moves, you see the water is constantly moving, right? So now, once you have calm abiding or a certain level of concentration, the water inside your cup is completely still, it doesn't move an inch, right? And then in that mind that is calm and settled experiences serenity, a pleasure that no outer pleasure can give you, no other sensory pleasure can give you. Why? Because the outer sensory pleasure, there's always a level of excitement, a level of shaking of the mind, is never stable. Right? Whereas the bliss of the mind is completely stable, it's still, and you are in there. Right? And it's so cozy, and so blissful. You know, and you can stay there for the time you want, without any effort. And that's the most blissful holiday that you have ever taken. You know, the bliss of the mind is the most beautiful thing to experience. But again, the problem with it is just a holiday. You see, you come out of the meditative state, you still bump into people, and you have to take your car, and the whole world outside is still the same as before. So calm abiding is merely taking a holiday from the world, is not solving the problem of the world. You see, our mental affliction, why do they arise? You see, so first, you see, from Buddhist point of view, the suffering that we experience, or the pain, the problems, arise because we want them. As funny as it seems, we want the problem that we have. Nobody pushes us to take rebirth, we come back willingly. You know, nobody pushes us back. It's our own desire, our own attachment to people, to different type of pleasure, to different type of sensory experiences that brings us back to this dimension. And as soon as we are born, we have to grow older, we have to find a job, and the whole problem of living arises in this dimension. There are other options. You see, but for us in the desire realm, we're brought back by our own attachment, our own desire, our own memories. And once we are here, because we see things in a slightly erroneous way, we bump into each other, right? So whatever my sense enter into contact with, which is pleasant, I want to repeat. Right? And whatever is unpleasant, I want to avoid. That's my basic psychology. You see, as long as there is an I, a concrete I within this body and mind, there are some concrete things out there that benefit me and concrete things that harm me. Right? So whatever is pleasant in my life, whether people, whether object, whether sound, music, cars, jobs, people, holidays, whatever is pleasant I want, right? And because these experiences are impermanent, constantly changing, I want to repeat them, I want to have them again and again. And I strive to get this pleasurable sensation, and that's how I'm driven to do things, right? And on the opposite side, whatever unpleasant things I encounter in life, I want to avoid. I make strategy to avoid, like sickness, like, you know, old age. I try to have a pension and things like to avoid the problems of growing old, right? I try to avoid noises, you know, live in a peaceful neighborhood and so forth, right? So our whole psychological strategy is to try to acquire the pleasant experience and to avoid the unpleasant. So to speak, we have no freedom. Psychologically, we are not free, right? We want to gain the good and avoid the bad. And that's in this life, but it's also when we die in the intermediate state and in next life. The fundamental strategy is the same. You see, whether you're in a lower realm, whether you're as human, or whether you're in the Deva realms, the God realms, the fundamental strategy is the same. I want more and more and more happiness, more and more pleasure, and want to avoid whatever pain or unsatisfaction that arise. So as long as we see things in such a way, there's no freedom, right? We will always trying to get the good and avoid the bad. And for each one of us, the good and bad might be different. But fundamentally, the I wants to get the good and avoid the bad. And all this arises because of a mistaken perception of reality. We think that there are truly pleasurable objects out there, truly unpleasurable objects there, and there's a truly existent I that wants the one and wants to avoid the other. You see, we are stuck in a concrete perception of the world. You see, we bump into each other. How do you say in the fair, you have this car with caoutchouc around which bump into each other? Huh? Bumper cars, right. So our life is a little bit like bumper car. You know, we bump into each other all the time. And the pleasant bumping we want to repeat, and the unpleasant bumping we try to avoid. You know, that's our life. See, our sense consciousness always enter into contact, bump into things. Right? So the pleasant bumping we want to gain, you know. The unpleasant bumping we want to avoid. It's very simple. The point is that we never question whether the objects that we bump into, whether they really exist or not, and whether the I that is bumping into things really exist or not. We take it for granted that things exist the way they appear to us. Yet in reality things don't exist the way they appear to us. You see, for example, before coming in I went for a few minutes to walk on the beach, and there was fog there. You know? But the fog appeared to exist from its own side, almost like it was made out of concrete. You know, there was concrete fog there in the sky. You know? There's concrete fog. You know? And I was walking on a concrete beach, you know, made out of concrete. Really very nice there. That's how it appeared to my sense consciousness. You see, the fog appeared to be one thing there. But the fog is just made of droplets of water. You know, little droplet, tiny drop. What is there from his own side? There's only an infinite number of droplets of water. And that infinite number of droplets of water, I label fog. But there's no fog there from his own side. See, I just impute, my mind designate fog onto that. But there's no fog. Right? And I walk on a beach. One thing, the beach, the super beach of, you know, out there. What is called that beach which has that old boat? Huh? Sea cliff, yeah. Yeah, but you can go down before, you know, at the corner. What's that beach called? Huh? New Bright, right, I was there. Right. And if you park the car upstairs, you know, you don't have to pay to enter the parking. So usually I do that. Yes, and you get more exercise. Exactly. So you see, there appears to be a concrete beach on which we walk. But there's no beach there, you know. From his own side, there's only a collection of drops of sand, you know, of little particles of sand. There's no beach there on which we walk. Right? The beach is merely imputed by the mind. There's no beach there. There's no fog there, and there's no ocean there. You know, it's just a coming together of all these drops of water. Right? There's no water there. There's no ocean there from his own side. And there appeared to be a body walking on that beach, you know, one body, me, you know, this body walking, chuk, 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 you know, feel very comfortable, walking around. But if I'm not satisfied with the mere appearance and I look for the body, you know, the head is not the body, the arms, the legs are not the body, the trunk is not the body, none of those parts is the body, and the coming together of parts which are not the body doesn't make it a body. It makes just a collection of things which are not the body. There's nobody there walking from his own side. So if you don't inquire, you see everything as positive, as existing objectively out there, right? So emptiness is the inquiry into, hey, do things exist the way they appear or not? And what you find is a non, instead of a positive thing, you find a non-findingness. And that non-findingness is the emptiness. So it's basically inquiring into everything that appears to you and not finding it. And that non-finding is the emptiness of inherent existence of that thing. Does that mean that things don't, because you don't find them, does that mean that they don't exist? No. They mean that they exist in a different way, that's all. So things do exist, but in a different way. You see, our perception of reality is like a beautiful rainbow there in the sky. It's as if our rainbow is made out of iron and concrete. That's how we perceive things. Right? In reality, the rainbow is just made out of droplets of water with the sun coming in a certain angle. You see it from a certain point of view, and the droplets of water are there, and the sun comes in a certain angle, and that makes the appearance of the rainbow. Right? There's no rainbow there. It's just droplets of water which reflect the sun in a certain way, and that makes the appearance of a rainbow. Right? So it's exactly the same thing with everything. Things don't exist objectively. They exist on the coming together of cause and condition. Right? And the mind, in a certain way, imputes onto those things that thing, but there's nothing there. There's nothing more there from his own side than a rainbow. And when you see things in such a way, you see, you don't bump into each other anymore. Right? There's no I bumping into another person, because there's no, you see, it's like a rainbow bumping into another rainbow. Right? So we are all rainbows bumping out into each other. And that understanding that things are not concrete. You see, if you see things in such a spacious way, there's no mental affliction that are created. You see, there's no desire, no attachment, no anger, proud, jealousy, fear. All these mental afflictions can only function if there's a concrete I bumping into concrete other people. If there's no concrete I, if there's a rainbow I interacting with rainbow other people, because your mind sees it that it has no essence, there is no mental affliction that arises. So philosophically one usually says that things are merely imputed by mind, merely designated. So you have to realize, what does that mean, a phenomena that is merely designated? What substance does a phenomena that exists as a mere name, as a mere designation has? That's very important. From the highest philosophical school, one says that everything is merely labeled or merely imputed or merely designated. What is that as a phenomena? Experientially, how is that? Or when one says everything is like rainbow energy, or everything is like a dream, or like a reflection in the moon in water. All these examples, they convey you a taste of how things exist. This is very important, to meditate on those examples and see, how does that feel like? So for example, one example given is the scarecrow. right? So when you go hiking into the mountain, you know, from far away you see a dead branch or a pile of trees. And because of the distance and the dimness of the light, you know, you say, oh, there's a person there. Yoo-hoo, I'm here, you know. You see a person there, right? It appears to you to a person there. So that's what we mean by a designation, a labeling, an imputation. We impute a person on that collection of stones or on that dead branch. It's a mere designation, a mere imputation. Okay? What is that as a phenomena? You see it has a kind of form. You see the person there on that collection, right? So that person is dependent arising, right? It arises in dependence on the collection of stones, the pile of stones or the dead branch, and the mind and the distance, the bad light, and you imputing on that. You project onto that a person, right? So that's how a designation functions. You know, so objectively there's no person at all, right? It's a mere designation on the collection of parts. All phenomena exist in such a way. This is very important to understand. The only problem there is that the designation is a wrong designation. But in terms of being a designation, is exactly the same, right? So the person designated on the pile of stone, there's no person there objectively at all. There's a pile of stone. The person is merely designated, right? It doesn't exist in the consciousness. It doesn't exist out there. It's the coming together of the base and the mind which creates the phenomena of a person. You see, it's very, very subtle how things exist. So you take that example. We can take the rose as an example, another example. You see, there appears to be a rose there from his own side. You know, if we don't think there's a rose there, right? So, to your mind, you see, if we don't think the way things appear to us, the room, our body, our mind, the I, other people, we think that they are out there, right? As there is a rose here on this table, there appears to be a rose there on this table. Right? But actually, if you inquire, there's no rose there at all. You know, none of the petals are a rose. If I now come to pick it apart, you know, I take each petal apart. So, is this a rose? No, it's a petal. Is this a rose? No. Is this a rose? No, it's a rose. You know, so none of the parts of it is a rose. Right? And the collection of things which are not a rose put together doesn't make it a rose. It's just a collection of things which are not a rose together. And on that collection of parts, like on the scarecrow, I designate, I impute rose. Right? So the rose doesn't exist there, it doesn't exist into my mind, it exists the coming together of the collection of parts and my mind. That's how it exists. It doesn't exist out there, it doesn't exist in my mind. So it's a mere designation, a mere imputation by the mind. And this you might think, oh yes, 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 no big deal. You know? The problem is, where we get stuck, is that we merely label the rose on something concrete. There's a concrete petals there, concrete stem, concrete leaf. But if you take then one of those parts and you analyze them further, the petal itself is merely labeled on the collection of its parts. Down to the atom, everything is merely imputed. There's nothing objectively there. The whole reality, the whole universe is nothing to be found. And that, then the basis of yourself starts shaking a little bit. No? You see, if you say, oh, my body is merely labeled on the collection of my limbs, my head, and my trunk, well, no big deal, because there's concrete limbs, concrete head, concrete trunk. But if you take the head itself is merely labeled on the skull, the skin, the brain, and so forth. And you take any one of those pieces, again is merely designated, and like that ad infinitum. So objectively, there's nothing there to hold on to. You end up in utter space. There's no basis at all for the whole universe, objectively. So there's nothing you can bump into, and there's nobody that can bump into things. And in that state, all your mental afflictions cease. They are unable to function, they cannot even arise. You have removed the root of all problem. Because for the problem to arise, there has to be a concrete I and concrete otherness. We have to be able to bump into each other. If there's no bumping, there's no mental affliction. You see, that's quite an outrageous statement. You know, it's quite far off, you know, if we go back to our everyday life, right? So we have to try to see first if there's any other solution. You know, I would rather not think about emptiness if there would be something else, you know, to solve the problem. But you back to the equation, as long as there is a me and there's a concrete other, we bump into each other. Right? And that bumping produces feelings. And the pleasant feelings, the I wants to repeat. And the bad ones wants to avoid. That's the basic psychology of our mind, of our existence. And when we die, we long for existence. The ego doesn't want to let go. Hey, I want to exist with my memories, my desire, my things and so forth. So I want to continue to exist the way I exist. I don't want to let go. And that produces, you know, the base for the next rebirth, with all the content, the memories, the habits that we have. So for us, this open space appears unfriendly. You see, why should I go there? You know, emptiness, you know, everything rainbow energy. I'm not sure. You know, I'm not sure at all if I want to go there. I like to bump into other people. That's only because you never experienced the space of being free. You know, the space where there's no bumping is pure bliss. You know, and it's not that things don't exist. Things do exist as rainbow light energy. Life is much more beautiful than we see. You know, what we see in bumping into each other is quite gross and is quite, dull, compared to the space when there's no bumping. You know, the open space, your mind is so, you know, is so pleasant, so beautiful. And the way you perceive reality is more like what quantum physics says. You know, everything interacts with each other, affects each other, and yet at the same time is completely freely open. And your mind pervades everything. It has no center, no boundary. You know, you have no beginning, no end. You know, it's completely, it's a complete otherness. You know, and it's so beautiful. And you experience a space of freedom where there's never any more fear, any more longing, you don't feel lonely. No, it's a complete otherness, which is so beautiful. So the only way to have the energy wanting to get there is to realize the problems that comes from bumping into each other, you know, the pain, the difficulty that arise. You know, it's only by seeing, how to say, the lack of freedom, the lack of space that this type of life gives us, that we would have the aspiration to see through. Right? Because, you see, for us, because of familiarity, we see things automatically as concrete, solid. Everything is yes, yes. There's concrete person out there, there's a concrete room, a concrete floor, concrete fog, concrete beach. Everything, if you stop thinking about it, your sense consciousness constantly lies to you. Everything appears to be to you in the wrong way. Right? As soon as you stop thinking, things appear again concrete. So what makes you wanting to inquire, to go beyond, is only by realizing, hey, we bump into each other, and this produces pain, frustration, longing. You know, if my bumping is pleasant, I don't want to let go. You know, I bump into something nice, I want to bump again and again, right? And if the bumping is unpleasant, I want to avoid. That's my reality. You know? With all our six senses, that's how it functions. And there's the frustration. Why? Because in this dimension, everything is impermanent, nothing lasts. I cannot bump into forever into the same person. Why? Because I'm growing old, the other person is growing old, and one of us will die first. You know? So, you know, we cannot bump into each other forever. Right? And that brings longing, fear of separation, and the whole mental problem arises from that. You see, we want so much security, but security is an impossibility. It's impossible to want total security. The only security is if you realize emptiness. Once you go beyond birth and beyond death, then you experience security. You experience a state that nobody can take you away. Before that, as long as you're in this dimension, things pass, and nothing can, you know, we all would like to stay young, right? Yet, year after year, more wrinkle, more white hair come, and the body becomes stiffer. You know, we don't want it, but that's the fact of this body, you know, impermanence, right? And our lifestyle, our children grow, you know, things constantly change. Our job, the people at work, our life constantly change. So we aspire to an everlasting security and everlasting happiness that the world cannot provide. So we live in a constant frustration. But it doesn't have to be like that. If you realize the true nature of things, you become free. You experience a state that is where there's no birth and no death. You're completely beyond. Okay, we'll make a 5-minute break. So to start with, do you have any questions about emptiness? So we'll just keep it to that topic. Do you understand the importance of why Buddhism is so passionate about emptiness? Is that, you see, you can reach higher level of bliss by developing calm abiding. You can go to the form realm, formless realm. You can bliss out in many different dimensions. And when you die, you're actually reborn in those spheres for millions and millions of years. Right? But as long as you don't see things as transparent, as having no essence, you're psychologically not free. That karma will come to an end and you're reborn somewhere else. So permanent freedom or everlasting freedom comes only through seeing things as transparent, as having no essence. Right? So even if you meditate on the space-like nature of the mind and you see it in the nature of bliss and there's no conception there, right? As long as you see that space of awareness as having an essence, as being there somewhere, you're still not free. No? So that's the tricky thing, is how to experience the world, the reality, people, as while being there at the same time they have no essence. It's to seeing this essencelessness that makes you free. And it's just a matter of training the mind. It's not that difficult actually. You know, experientially, you just, instead of saying yes, adhering to things in a concrete way, you see through things. You imagine, you see the ground, it's just made of particles. There's not a solid ground there. There's not a solid flower there. There's not a solid body, not a solid mind, not a solid eye. So it's to see things in the reverse way, that they appear to us. And so things still exist, but instead of bumping into things, there's just so much open space. And more you are there, more you see things from that space of this, how to say, from the perspective, this open space, that much less mental affliction you have. That much your fear decreases, that much your anger, your attachment decreases. More you look from the perspective as things being transparent, more the mental affliction decreases. And interestingly, with that open space, there's a sense of, an inner feeling of peace, of joy that arises, and even a sense of humor. Right? Because things appear in a way, but they exist in a different way, and it makes you burst out laughing, you know, how you're cheated all the time, you know, by the mistaken perception. It's actually very funny, you know? And how suddenly, you see, because your relationship becomes so concrete, your job is concrete, your bills are concrete, suddenly your world becomes again completely uptight. Right? And then you remember, oh, but actually there's no concrete bill to be paid. You know, there's no concrete I which has the bill. You know, there's no concrete house that I have to pay the rent for. There's no concrete car that falls apart. There's no concrete people I have problem with at work. You know, suddenly, psychologically, the space opens up. You know, is the same car, the same job, the same work, but somehow psychologically you become free. So by seeing in such a way, you start realizing the freedom that emptiness gives to you. You know, how the goodness, the well-being that arises from seeing things as transparent, as having no essence. So even the pleasure, the ordinary pleasure you have become more pleasurable, funnily enough. You see? The pleasure we have, there's always a tension in it. There's a me, the pleasure could always be more intense and longer lasting. The ego holds on to the pleasurable experience and doesn't enjoy it the way it is. He wants more and longer. There's a tension there, right? the pleasurable experience with the open space, you just take it for what it is. There's complete spaciousness. There's complete peace of mind while you have the pleasurable experience. You enjoy the cookie fully. You enjoy the tea fully. You just take it for what it is. Right? There's complete open space. See, so much of our worry comes from this uptight mind. We have so concrete concept, concrete fear, concrete future, concrete problem here. Yet they are not objectively there. They are created by our own mind, by adhering to things in a concrete way. So all this psychological worry that we have, we could be free of them if we would experience things as transparent. So the more we see things as transparent, the freer you become, the more pleasure you have in life. The more you see things as concrete, the more fear, the more uptight we are, the more worry we have. And also, more you see things as transparent, as having no essence, more actually it purifies your mind. You see, emptiness is the best thing to purify past negative deeds. You see, how to say, often we see life in grey. Things that, as a child, you see everything is sparkling and new. And the older we become, the more bored we are about things. Things are, nothing really excites us anymore, We are not fresh and new in front of experience. How come? You see, every day is a new day. It's completely unique. Even you live with a person since 20 years, that person is a new person every day. His or her body has changed. His or her mind has changed. Is a new person there. I have changed, my body has changed, my mind has changed. So we are new, every day is a new person to discover. Since 20 years, you can discover a new person every day. And on top of that, by understanding that things don't last. You see, we take it for granted that that person will wake up next to me next morning, but there's no guarantee at all. That person can die in his or her sleep, or I can die in my sleep. There's no guarantee that we're together tomorrow. Right? Same thing, the car, the dog, the house. Everything is constantly changing and is not sure what is there tomorrow. And that, you see, emptiness reinforces the understanding of impermanence. And that adds a beauty, a preciousness to your everyday experience. You enjoy things much more. Because life is beautiful, is enjoyable. There's nothing wrong with people, there's nothing wrong with cars, with house. The problem is that we see it concrete, and as soon as we see it as concrete, the suffering mind arises, the worries. If you can enjoy things in an open way, then it's fun, life is fun. So actually with emptiness, you enjoy things much more. It's not like looking away from things, it's looking through, it's understanding how things really exist. And things are really beautiful. And also, emptiness makes you arise compassion, because you see the beauty in people. You start seeing their Buddha nature, you see that they have this pure mind. You see, the more you experience your mind as bliss, as peace, as light, you understand that all other beings have exactly the same purity of mind, but they don't recognize it. So you see that they have this pure Buddha nature there, but they identify themselves to a mask, which they are not, and because of that they suffer. All their worry, all their problems is made that they are a wrong identification with who they are. So naturally you have compassion. You know, you see people say, "Oh, so sad." You know, they have this pure, blissful Buddha nature there, and they don't see it. You know? Because the more you see the purity in your mind, the more you see it in others. The more you experience the emptiness of your mind, the more you see that the mind of others have the same emptiness, the same bliss. So from that perspective, everybody has this purity, this Buddha nature, right? But because they identify themselves with the ego, which doesn't exist, they have all these problems, all these needs, all these desire, all this attachment, this frustration, this anger, right? All this is created by this wrong identification to something that is completely unfindable and doesn't exist. If they would see that, if they would see that there's no water, that is just a mirage, they would be instantaneously free from all these worries. Right? So naturally you have compassion for other people because you see that they have this beautiful nature there and they don't experience it because just of a little switch in their mind, you know, a little things in the mind that doesn't see through things. I try to sell emptiness, you know. You have any questions about that before we do a concluding meditation?
The way that my mind is understanding this is that it's about perception.
Yes.
It's just my constant perception of everything around me.
Yes.
So then it would be my detachment from my perception.
No. Not detachment from the perception. That would be going to calm abiding. So kind of withdrawing from the. That's one approach in some school. They would say that, you know, the world is the problem, so let's get away from the world. You know, let's get away from the sensory perception into the inner space. So that's not the approach. It's to realize that things out there are not the way they appear. So there are people out there, but they don't exist in the way they appear to me. You know, there's actually a way, instead of your mind stopping at the person, you see through the person. The person becomes rainbow energy instead of being a concrete person. Right? So while looking at the person, there's nothing there to hold on to. So that would be closer. You see, it's not withdrawing. It's actually fully engaging with things but not finding it. You know? So there is real freedom. As long as you withdraw, you know, you don't want to interact. So there's a fear there because, oh, something is, you know, something can produce pain or attachment out there. So that's one approach, but that's not true freedom. The true freedom would be when there's nothing anymore in your mind that holds on to things. Yeah. So in daily life, you see, you have two approaches. You have either the analytical approach, which is very helpful to prove to yourself that things don't exist the way they appear. You can prove, that's what's interesting about the emptiness, you can prove it to yourself. Right? And then you have the intuitive approach, where you use this example like rainbow energy, like a mirage, like dream. You know? And you walk around in your daily life, and that's your object of calm abiding. You try to maintain. You see, you do a meditation in the morning, and you go out. You stand up off your cushion, and you decide this is a rainbow floor, this is a rainbow room, rainbow people, rainbow car, rainbow work. You keep the mindfulness, the continuity of that. Or you go to walk on the beach. You see rainbow sky, rainbow cloud, rainbow ground, rainbow people. And you will see, if you are able to maintain a continuity of seeing through things, how your mind becomes spacious. There's a completely different experience. Rainbow eye, rainbow body, rainbow mind. Nothing solid. Suddenly your mind completely expands. Rainbow thought, rainbow emotion. You see, nothing there to hold on to. Right? If you're able, you see how effective it is. It just depends on your level of concentration, your level of how long you can maintain that state. The less interference you have, the stronger your concentration, the longer you can maintain that, the more impact it has, and the deeper the experience. Right? And then you start appreciating. You see, from your own experience, you see the space of mind you reach when you see things as transparent. And from within that transparentness, you experience a state of being that you know that you're eternal. There's nothing that can take you away. That there's nothing that can harm you, because there's nobody to be harmed. There's nobody to be harmed, and there's nothing out there that can harm you. There's nothing out there that can benefit you. You see, there's nothing that can make emptiness more empty. There's nothing that can take away the emptiness of things. So from within emptiness, you have total peace. There's nothing that makes it better. There's nothing that makes it worse. You're completely free. You know, there's no more fear. Even death is just this body. You know, the karma of being in this body disappears, but the mind, the state of the emptiness of the mind goes on in exactly the same way. And then instead of being forced to take rebirth under the power of concrete memory, concrete habit that pulls your mind, because you see through the thought, through the emotion, they have no power over you. You're free of them. So you're not propelled by your habit, your memories. You see, because you see through them, so you're free of them. So you can take rebirth wherever you want, instead of being forced to take rebirth by your memory, your habit. You see, the problem is not with the thought, with the emotion. The problem is to believe that the thought and emotion truly exist. If you can see it and see through the thought, through the emotion, they have no power over you. They have power over you only if you believe that they exist concretely. So emptiness is simply to see through things constantly, again and again, not to adhere to things in a positive way. Yeah, anything else? Now, experientially, if you want to get there, what prevents us from actually experiencing it is simply karma. You know, is the habit of seeing things concrete, solidly, is just too strong, and our wisdom to want to see through things is too weak. You see, for example, a person here with a pure mind, you know, which has good karma, which has done lot of practice in his previous life, he can hear that and go into that state and never come out of it. You know? How come that we cannot do it? It's because the habit of seeing things concrete is so strong. We are in that habit since beginningless time. So it's not the word that are not correct, it's our habit with the opposite that is so strong. And our habit of wisdom is so weak. So one way is to purify this strong negative habit we have, and then create positive energy. You see, by being generous, kind-hearted, helping others, serving spiritual beings. So all this creates a goodness in our heart. And then the third thing is to make aspiration prayer. You see, how to say, the Dharmakaya. You see, actually, one's own mind, you see, the more you have a taste of what the nature of the mind is, the more you have understanding what the Buddhas are. Right? So from the tantric perspective, we have a gross body and gross mind that we experience in everyday life. We have a subtle body and a subtle mind that we experience in the dream state. Right? In the dream, you have a body which is like, how to say, an energy body, a mental body, or a dream body, or an astral body, or rainbow body. You see, it's a body, but if you look at your body in the dream, it's made out of subtle energy that moves. You know, it's not so concrete. And with the dream body, if you think of a place, you're there. Right? With the dream body, you can fly, you can be in different places at different moments. So, one spiritual practice which is very helpful is try to train to be conscious in your dream, so that you can use the dream body for spiritual purpose. So the dream body can give you many insights into reality. So when you go to sleep, you have to make the aspiration, I want to be conscious of my dream while I'm dreaming, and within the dream I want to be aware that this is a dream. You have to make that determination before going to sleep. And actually, if you have a light sleep, it's quite easy to remember your dream or to be aware, of dreams. Myself, there's two ways that it works. Either I sleep very uncomfortably and I wake up a lot of time. So that's one way to remember to be conscious of the dream state. Or I sleep late in the morning, like Sunday, you stay in so you actually have had enough sleep, but you kind of half asleep, half daydreaming, and there is a state where actually you can enjoy the dream state, because you're not sinking into heavy sleep because you're not tired enough, but yet you're not completely awake yet. So you can actually go into the dream state, and you try while in the dream to be conscious, this is a dream. How? So, for example, Carlos Castaneda, one of the tricks he said, is try to watch your hand in the dream. And I found it very effective. You see? Because what happened in the dream is that your consciousness is everywhere, and at the same time is the dream person. So you have this kind of panoramic view of the dream reality, and you are a person within that. But you are everything. So the fact of wanting to look at your hand makes you enter the dreamer's body. Right? So instead of being the whole thing, you actually end up in the dream like in the waking reality. You're in that body, and you see things from within that dreamer's body, but this is a dream. Right? So this is very interesting to do. Why? Because if you get control of your dream and you know that it's a dream and it doesn't exist objectively, that's the step to be able to do it in the intermediate state. You see, because the intermediate state, when you die, you will have a body and an environment created by your mind like a dream. So why do we get reborn? It's because we have attraction and aversion to people in the intermediate state. Or like we have attraction and aversion in our dream, we move around, right? So if you can see the dream as transparent, as having no essence, and you can have no fear, no attraction, no aversion in the dream, then there's a likelihood that you can do it the same things when you die in the intermediate state realm and become free. As long as you see the dreams are concrete, are solid, you have no chance to be able to see it as the intermediate state as having no essence, right? Because it's exactly the same dimension, the same level of reality. The dream is created by our mind, by our memories, our imprints. That's what creates the dream reality in our mind, right? But in the dream, while we dream, we see it as an objective reality out there. Right? With objective people, we really miss the bus, we run after the bus, we're late, Or the airplane is falling and we really feel, that plane is going to crash, We forget it's a dream, that we are going to wake up very cozily in our bed, So it's because we believe it's truly happening, that we have these emotions arising. And then the third level of mind is the level of awareness we have in deep sleep. So most of us, we become unconscious in deep sleep. Right? Not unconscious, I would say. Because, for example, a mother, even she's in deep sleep, if the child is making some noise, she wakes up. Right? So there's a subliminal level of awareness even in deep sleep. Right? If some unexpected noise or some unexpected things happen, we wake up. So that shows that we are not completely unaware. There's a level of subtle awareness. And that level of subtle awareness in deep sleep is similar as the level of awareness one has when one dies. The clear light of death is a very subtle level of mind that pervades everything. Right? And that purified becomes the Dharmakaya, the omniscient mind of the Buddhas. Right? That realizing the emptiness of that mind, that the essencelessness of that space, becomes the omniscient mind of the Buddha. And you see, there also there's a subtle body or subtle wind energy related to that level of awareness. Right? So the mind, the subtle mind pervades all phenomena, and wherever there is this subtle mind, so is the subtle energy body. Right? So Buddhas, enlightened beings, can crystallize body anywhere. Right? So they can crystallize body right in front of us. For which reason? First, because their mind is everywhere, and wherever is their mind is their body. So if you visualize a Buddha in front of you, or an enlightened being, or a deity, from his side there's no problem at all, he's really there. Why? Because his mind is everywhere, and wherever is the mind is the body, and the only reason they became that state of omniscience is out of love and compassion for us. Right? So from their side, they spontaneously manifest. What prevents us from seeing them is just our level of obscuration. Right? So if you have that conviction that the deity, the Buddha, or your teacher is really here in front of you, right? And you try to visualize a body of blissful light, you can receive, and then from your heart you have an aspiration. You make prayer, please bless my mind that I realize emptiness. You can receive powerful blessing. Right? So what prevents the blessing from happening is because we don't truly believe that the Buddha is here in front of us. We think, yeah, I just visualize it. We forget that from each side it's really there. It's just my mind that cannot see it yet. So all these tantric visualization we do are very, very powerful if we understand what's going on there. So it's not at the level of the gross body and mind that it's happening, it's the level of the subtle mind and subtle body. So, you see, when you receive blessing from, let's say, Lama Tsongkhapa, and you melt into light and absorb into your heart, in the subtle level of body and mind, that's actually happening. Right? So if you can tune to your subtle body and mind, you can actually experience a deep blessing or deep realization. And actually, the spiritual master can show you emptiness. Can through you see, through awakening your subtle mind and body, they can show you their level of reality. So there it depends on how much we purify our mind, how much positive energy we generate of mind, and how much faith and devotion we have. Right? Then powerful blessing comes, and realization, things that you think that you wouldn't be able to realize in 100 years, you can realize in a few years. It's not that difficult. Right? Spiritual realization are not difficult to gain if you practice in a proper way. It's just a matter of purifying, gaining merit, and getting the blessing, and then from one's own side try to cultivate a certain level of detachment by realizing the frustrated nature of cyclic existence. And on that base you can develop a level of calm abiding, and on the level of calm abiding you have the stillness required to see through things. And the more you see through things, more you have natural love and compassion for all beings that don't see through things. So it's very simple, sometimes we make it so complicated, but yet reality is so simple, and experience is very simple. So enlightenment is not something that we have to build. It's more a question of letting go of our concept, of our worry, of the way we see things. It's to let go and see through things, to gain more space in our mind. You see, the purity of the mind is not something that we have to build. It's something that reveals itself when you let go. The mind is fundamentally pure, but we put so much stuff in our mind that we are not able to experience it. So let's sit maybe for 5 minutes. See, there appears to be a concrete body sitting. Yet none of the parts of the body is the body. The head, the limbs, the trunk is not the body. So all these parts put together doesn't make a body from his own side. There's no body there. The body is merely imputed by the mind in the same way that the person is merely imputed on the scarecrow. It doesn't have more objective reality than the person imputed on the scarecrow. The body is merely imputed. The trunk itself is merely imputed on the collection of organs, spine, and all the parts. The heart is merely imputed on the collection of all the muscles, veins, and so forth. The vein itself is merely imputed, down to the molecule, the atoms. There's nothing that exists objectively in this body. There's no body there and no part of the body there at all objectively. The mind appears to be a space where there are thoughts and mental images and emotion arising. And the mind never remains a second the same. One thought after another, mental image after another, emotion after another, perception, feelings, contact. The mind constantly apprehends something else. And none of those states are the mind itself. Mind is merely designated upon that collection of thought, mental images, emotions. There's no mind to be found there objectively. There appear to be an I, an observer, a thinker, a feeler, somewhere within the body and mind. Yet we have not been able to find the body or find the mind. So where can this I exist? It's a complete hallucination. There's no I in there at all. The I that exists is a mere designation on the collection of body and mind, but there's no I in there. The I exists and will reach enlightenment. The I that exists is a mere designation on the mind or on the collection of mind and body. That's all. There's no I there. It's a dependent arising. The I that has fear, that has longing, that has aversion, that I doesn't exist at all. It has never existed, it doesn't exist now, and it will never exist. It's a complete hallucination. There's no body, there's no mind, there's no I from its own side. The body is a mere imputation, like the person on the scarecrow. The mind is a mere imputation. The I is a mere imputation. There's nothing there objectively. If you have a feeling of uneasiness arising, it means that you're touching the right spot. Or if you have a feeling of great bliss arising, great spaciousness, you might also be touching the right spot. And that space of awareness, which doesn't find the body, doesn't find the mind, doesn't find the I, is a nature of bliss. You can imagine that it's made of light and that you increase the brightness of the light. And the more brighter you make that space of awareness, the more blissful it becomes. And within that space, there is no dualistic conception whatsoever. And if there are thoughts or mental image arising, they're completely transparent. The mind doesn't adhere to them, completely sees through them. The mind is completely free. And within that awareness that sees through things, that mind you can crystallize into a body. You crystallize into a body of light sitting on your cushion or chair. So you create out of your pure mind a light body, a rainbow light body. So the energy of this light body moves very fast and is very bright. It's a transcendental body. It's not an ordinary body. It's created out of the staff of the mind perceiving emptiness. And that subtle wind you crystallize to a light body. So imagine your body sitting, made out of light. The ground on which you sit is made out of light. The other people sitting with you have rainbow light bodies. The room is made of blissful rainbow light energy. The whole planet is made of blissful light energy, transparent, having no essence, yet appearing in the tiniest detail. So that's how mind can create nirvana, the pure perception created out of bliss and emptiness. How you can transform your everyday life into a pure realm or into a Buddha's paradise. It's not the people or the place that needs to change, it's our mind. Pure realm is right here. If you change your level of consciousness. And in that pure level of consciousness, there's no more suffering, no more mental affliction. Life becomes pure joy. And you have spontaneous energy to lead other people to that state of freedom. And even death cannot take that away from you. So whatever positive energy we have generated tonight by reflecting about the ultimate solution to all our problems, may we generate this strong aspiration in the heart to soon discover that and to make it our permanent reality. To the blessings of our teacher that inspire us, to our own purification and merits that we accumulate in our daily life, and to our renunciation, detachment, may we gain a calm mind, and through that calm mind may we see through things and become familiarized with that non-finding, and within that non-finding may we realize how things truly exist as mere designation by the mind. May we realize the union of emptiness and dependent arising. And may we abide in the space of pure bliss forever. And may we become skillful in leading others to that state.